Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story. Nora was running down the sidewalk, holding a completely bent umbrella. She was late, really late, and this wasn't just any interview. She was just 2 blocks away from the shiny Carter Group skyscraper when she heard the sound of tires speeding toward her. She tried to dodge it, but it was too late. A wave of mud flew out of a puddle like an urban tsunami and hit her head-on. Her umbrella flipped inside out. Her light-colored pants turned brown. Her white blouse became beige and blotchy. She stood there for 3 seconds, frozen like some kind of protest statue. Okay, stay calm. Maybe he didn't see me. Maybe he's blind in one eye and distracted with the other, she mumbled, trying to hold on to her dignity. But then the car window rolled down. He looked at her, and then the window went back up. No, 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 she shouted, raising her arms to the sky. You saw me, you fancy penguin, executive model, limited edition, coldness. You vacuum of elegance. She stood there fuming, feeling like she'd been ignored with first-class style. The car disappeared into traffic. Nora took a deep breath. 2 choices: go home, cry, and eat chocolate she didn't have, or keep going. She chose the second. She walked up the steps of the Carter Group with the dignity of someone who had just come out of battle and lost. In the lobby, dozens of well-dressed, perfumed, and made-up women waited with resumes printed on glossy paper. Nora looked like a lost intern from the cleaning crew. The receptionist looked at her like she was watching a live meme. Interview for the CEO's assistant position. Name, Nora Kim, she said firmly. Oh, right. You can wait over there. She sat down carefully, trying not to get mud on the chair. Next to her, a woman in a pink blazer subtly scooted away, as if worried about catching a style infection. Then the elevator doors opened, and he walked in. Ethan Carter, cold, untouchable, impeccable. Every step looked like it had been rehearsed for a fancy cologne commercial. He scanned the room like he was choosing a piece of art until his eyes landed on her. Nora, she swallowed hard. It's him, the tsunami in a suit. You fancy penguin? She muttered under her breath angrily. He paused for a second, looked at her, no blink, no reaction, and then, without a word, kept walking like she was just part of the lobby's exotic decor. Of course, he's not going to apologize. Probably thinks mud is a beauty treatment, she mumbled to herself. The interviews began. One by one, the women were called in. Nora went over every possible answer in her mind, trying to ignore the fact that she smelled like mud. Nora Kim, the receptionist called, looking at her with barely hidden pity. She stood up, adjusted her bent umbrella in her bag, and walked into the glass room. Ethan was behind a dark wooden desk, typing something on his laptop. When he looked up and saw her, the corners of his mouth twitched somewhere between holding back a laugh and pure sarcasm. Mr. Carter, she said, trying to stay composed. Sorry about how I look. There was a little urban surprise. Yes, that happens, especially to people who don't check the weather or watch out for city hazards. She blinked. Was he teasing her? And to drivers who think crosswalks are just polite suggestions, she replied, smiling slightly. He crossed his arms, still watching her. I like honest candidates and bold ones. Or are you just trying to make up for the mud with personality? Nope, this is natural. The mud just highlights it. Ethan gave a brief, almost invisible smile, but his eyes were sharp, curious. All right, Miss Kim, why do you think you're fit to be my personal assistant? Because I'm tough, quick to react, and I don't give up easily. 3 qualities I clearly demonstrated today. Modest, too. Too much humility doesn't go well with dirty clothes. One thing at a time. He looked down at her resume, then back at her. It's dirty. I was trying to match the overall theme. And then he laughed. A short laugh, a real one. Well, Miss Kim, this interview is definitely different. Good. I tend to make lasting impressions. Ethan stared at her for another second, and even though he didn't say anything, he clearly remembered the car, the puddle, and the girl covered in mud, who looked at him like she could shoot lasers from her eyes. But he didn't apologize, didn't admit anything. He just made a note on the paper in front of him. You may go, Miss Kim. We'll be in touch. She stood up, and across the desk, Ethan couldn't wipe the smile off his face. Nora left Ethan's office without really knowing what had just happened. She'd been sarcastic, bold, and probably way too honest for a job interview, especially with the CEO himself. But deep down, she felt a little spark of pride growing in her chest. whispered the one in the pink blazer, smiling smugly. Of course, dirty people don't go well with imported carpet, do they? Nora replied with a sweet but sharp smile. The woman frowned slightly and turned her head. Sitting down again, Nora tried to dry her blouse with a tissue. Everything about her screamed unprepared: the wet clothes, messy hair, stained resume. And yet she felt like something had shifted inside her. Maybe it was just adrenaline, or maybe it was the look Ethan gave her before she walked out. Upstairs, Ethan was slowly spinning a pen between his fingers. In front of him were all the resumes, all clean, laminated, neatly stacked, and right in the middle of them, a damp, wrinkled one with a torn corner, Nora Kim. Well, that was different, he murmured, leaning back in his chair. The head of HR, Lila, walked into the room in her sharp-shouldered blue blazer, clipboard in hand as always. "Do you need me to narrow down the final resumes?" she asked. "All business. Not yet. I want to review a few of them myself." She raised an eyebrow, surprised. "All 100 by yourself? Just the ones that stood out." "Okay," she hesitated. "And the last one? The muddy girl?" Ethan slowly flipped through his notepad. "Which one? The one who looked like she just came back from military training in a swamp?" He gave a half smile. "Oh, that one. Are you actually considering her?" I usually hire based on two things, ability and courage. She seems to have both in abundance." Lila paused dramatically but realized she wouldn't get any more answers. She simply nodded and left. Hours later, the final group of candidates walked out of the building. Nora was among them. No one knew the outcome, but one thing was clear. All of them, except one, had left quietly, standing tall, perfume untouched. Nora walked out laughing to herself, holding her bent umbrella like it was a trophy. The next morning, she was woken up by her phone buzzing. Still half asleep, she picked it up and answered in a raspy voice. "Hello, Miss Kim, this is Carter Group. We're calling to inform you that you've been selected for the position of CEO's personal assistant. Congratulations." Silence. "Miss Kim? Oh yes, of course, I was chosen. Yes, we'll need you here tomorrow at 8 a.m. Please bring your documents." "And I was chosen," she repeated, now shouting. "Yes, miss. Is everything all right?" "Everything's wonderful. I'm great. I mean, sort of, but thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye." She hung up and just stared at the screen, speechless. This has to be a prank. Back at Ethan's office, Lila couldn't hide her curiosity. "You actually hired her?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because none of the other 100 candidates made me laugh. Not once." Lila narrowed her eyes. "Ethan, this is a company, not a comedy club." "Exactly. And someone who can get through public embarrassment and still keep together has more potential than someone with a perfectly typed resume. Or maybe you just like a challenge." "Maybe," he smiled. "Or maybe I'm just bored." The next morning, Nora was standing outside the Carter Group building before 7:30. She wore her best outfit, still just a simple blouse and a business skirt with a small rip pinned in place. Her hair was tied up in a bun that looked ready to fall apart at any moment. "Good morning," she said to the front desk guard with a big smile. He gave her a puzzled look, but let her in. She rode the elevator up, staring at her reflection in the mirror. "All right, Nora. Time to prove you earned this. No falling, no tripping, no soaking anyone." The doors opened, and she was shown to the CEO's floor. A stern-looking woman named Vanessa pointed to a makeshift desk near the main office. "This will be your spot for now. And don't touch anything, not even the coffee." "Understood. But what if the coffee spills on me?" Vanessa didn't laugh. She just turned her back. Nora looked around. Everyone seemed like they walked out of a corporate fashion magazine. She felt like the only extra who read the wrong script. Minutes later, Ethan's office door opened. He stepped out with confident strides and a direct gaze. He stopped in front of the new employee. "Miss Kim, Mr. Carter, you're early. Just trying not to repeat yesterday's grand entrance. You're off to a good start. You're clean." She gave a wry smile. "For now." Ethan turned, but just before stepping into his office, he said without looking back, "Keep up the pace." She blinked, surprised. "Sorry." He had already closed the door. In the break room, two employees spoke quietly. "Did you see she got hired? The mud girl? Really? They say she told Ethan a few hard truths." And he laughed. He laughed? Exactly. "Wow. You think she's related to him or a secret girlfriend?" "I doubt it. That one. She looks like trouble. And Ethan doesn't do well with trouble, right? I bet she won't last a week." Back at her desk, Nora opened her new notebook and scribbled on the first page. Day 1. Still not fired. I'll take it. She had no idea the real test was still ahead. Nora's official first day as the CEO's personal assistant began with one goal: not mess anything up, at least not before lunch. Her resolve lasted exactly 11 minutes. It all started with the coffee. The tray was steady. She was focused. The carpet was slippery, and the heel she borrowed from her cousin caught on the hem of her pants. The sound of the cup crashing echoed down the hallway like a clumsy orchestra. Everyone stopped, including Ethan, who was in a meeting with 2 Japanese executives. He slowly turned his head toward the scene, and there she was, frozen, coffee everywhere, wishing she could dig a tunnel to Japan and disappear. "Good morning," she said, raising a thumbs up. Ethan said nothing. He simply closed the glass door to the meeting room with surgical calm. His look, however, promised revenge through spreadsheets. "Off to a great start, Kim," murmured Vanessa, the senior assistant, walking by with her colorful clipboard and automatic disdain. Nora rushed to clean the floor, tripped slightly on the rag, and even managed to bang her elbow on the corner of the printer. It was official. Chaos had begun. 2 hours later, sitting at her desk with an ice pack on her elbow and a pile of confusing instructions, Nora tried to understand what organized the reports in the blue folder according to Ethan's system meant. "What system is that?" she muttered. "His system. Chaotic and secret," answered a voice beside her. It was Mateo, the IT analyst, and apparently the only friendly person on that floor. "Seriously, no one knows how it works. We just hand it in. He reorganizes everything and still says it was wrong. So, it's like a riddle." "Exactly. A riddle with an ego." Nora laughed for the first time that day. "Thanks. The first needed that." "You're welcome. And watch out for the printer. It holds grudges." His name was Colin, and he looked exactly like the sushi delivery guy from that morning. "Wow, that was fast. Let me just check if I have the right change," said Nora, already digging in her bag. Colin's eyes widened. "Excuse me? Oh, you're not from the yakisoba. I'm the sales director at Altus Corporation." Silence. "Ah, right, of course. I was just testing your improv skills, and you passed. Congrats." Colin let out a hesitant chuckle. Ethan showed up at that exact moment. "Is there a problem?" he asked. "Nope, none at all. Just a little live HR test," Nora replied, putting her wallet back in her purse. Ethan looked from Colin to her and sighed. "Come in, Colin, please." The presentation for the shareholders was updated, but no one told the print shop they're going to print the wrong version. "Can we fix it?" Ethan asked, turning to Nora. "The correct file is in the system, but no one understands the layout you made." "Not even the print shop," Vanessa replied, already blaming the PowerPoint gods. Nora stood up. "I can try." Everyone looked at her. Ethan frowned. "You know about layouts?" "No, but I know confusion, and I'm fluent in last-minute fixes." She grabbed the flash drive, opened the file, looked at the chaos of scattered information and messy images, and got to work. "This calls for some improvisation," she muttered. She reorganized the slides with visual logic, made the titles clearer, standardized the icons, and created a final summary with intuitive colors. "All set. You can send it." Vanessa was stunned. "This is great. It's functional. Better than great." Ethan looked at the new layout on the projector. Silence. Then he said, "This will save us from an embarrassment tomorrow. Good job, Kim." She smiled. "See, not all mud is useless." He raised an eyebrow with a half smile. "We're still testing that theory." Later, as she was leaving the building, Nora ran into Mateo in the elevator. "Survived your first day?" "Barely. I tripped, spilled coffee, offended an executive, and fixed $1 million presentation. That's more than most people do in their first week. I hope that earns me some points, or at least makes for good stories when I get fired. If I know Ethan, he'll keep you around out of pure curiosity. He loves a mystery." Nora laughed, but she was thoughtful. Ethan hadn't yelled, hadn't humiliated her, and he even acknowledged her effort in the end. Actually, he seemed more amused than upset. Back in the office, Ethan was reviewing the slides again. The layout made sense. It showed boldness, clarity, and quick thinking. Nora's resume didn't mention anything about design or presentations. She just understood what needed to be done and did it. He leaned back in his chair and murmured, "Who are you, Miss Kim?" The next morning, while having coffee in the cafeteria with Mateo, Nora overheard someone from accounting whispering, "That's her, the new assistant, the CEO's chosen one." I bet there's something fishy going on. Nobody gets that job after stepping in a puddle. Maybe he's into extreme adventures. Nora bit into her bread and said, "Funny, if they knew I was mistaken for a sushi delivery girl, they might think I'm a ninja too." Matteo nearly choked, laughing. "You should write all this down. Could be a book." She smiled, but deep down she felt something strange, like she was being watched, studied. At the end of the hallway, Ethan was watching her from a distance, holding a cup. He wasn't smiling, but he also didn't look away. It was like he was trying to solve a puzzle that for some reason kept getting more interesting. Wednesday began with a stack of papers and a challenge. Ethan Carter wanted the performance stats from the last 3 quarters compiled, summarized, and compared with past reports. All of it by 11:00 a.m. Nora looked at the reports like someone facing an evolving paper monster. Her first plan was to fake a faint, but instead she chose something bolder, understanding. Amid graphs that looked like modern art and spreadsheets written in alien code, she dove into the task with all the courage that 2 coffees and 0 accounting experience could offer. "Matteo," she whispered when she saw the IT analyst walk by, "do you happen to have a spreadsheet translator for people who don't speak finance?" "Only if you pay in chocolate," he replied, tossing a bar onto her desk. "Deal. Give me half an hour, and I'll pay you with a bad joke and eternal gratitude. Best payment I've gotten today." Nora laughed and went back to the battlefield. At 10:50, she knocked on Ethan's office door, blue folder in hand and slightly out of breath. "Here it is. I managed to put everything into one report. I used color graphs and added a legend for you, or for any regular person who reads it." Ethan flipped through the material, raising an eyebrow as he went. "You did this by yourself?" "With help from the IT Oracle and a chocolate bar, but yes." He looked at her a second longer than necessary. "Then it's not perfect, but it's better than the version I got from finance last week." "Wow. Was that a compliment?" "That was an observation. Coming from you, it almost sounds like a serenade." Ethan ignored the comment and returned to the report. Nora turned to leave, but he stopped her. "I need you to bring this with me to the board meeting. We'll go down together." She blinked, surprised. Yes, I'll go with you. Just give me a second to stop my hands from shaking. Please don't knock anyone over on the way. No promises." They got into the building's glass elevator that went straight to the executive floor. The silence at first was comfortable until halfway down the elevator stopped, and it wasn't the right floor. Nora looked around. "Is this part of the executive experience? A dramatic pause between floors?" Ethan pressed the button. "Nothing. Stuck elevator," he muttered. "Great." Nora took a step back, looking around with slightly wide eyes. "Just tell me we're not going to be stuck here for hours. That depends on the maintenance team." "So, yes." She started breathing a little faster. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, watching her. "Mild claustrophobia, like light, but with the potential to get worse fast." "Do you have any technique to deal with it?" "Usually I sing. Please don't." She let out a nervous laugh. "All right. Talking works too. As long as the conversation keeps me from thinking about the fact that I'm trapped in a box with a grumpy and possibly insensitive CEO, possibly. I'm trying to be polite and stay alive." Ethan leaned back against the glass wall, arms crossed. "Then, talk. What's Miss Kim's story beyond her ability to fall gracefully and improvise under pressure?" She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "Well, I was born in Pine Hills on the outskirts of the city. My mom was a seamstress. My dad, I don't know. He disappeared when I was little. I grew up around needles, fabric, and creativity. I always loved making things, but money was always tight." Ethan listened quietly, focused. "I've done all kinds of work. I was a nanny, worked behind counters, waited tables, sold handmade bracelets in college. I didn't have much luxury, but I always had the will to try. Even when everything went wrong, and it did, like the interview." He let out a small laugh. "The interview was a memorably bad one. And yet, I'm here. A mystery, right? A puzzle. And you? When was the last time you got stuck in an elevator with someone full of sarcasm and childhood trauma?" Ethan gave a slight smile. "First time." "So, were you born a CEO, or was that the result of some deal with the universe?" "My father founded the company. I was trained from an early age to take over. Studied in London, then New York. Worked in 5 branches before becoming CEO. And do you like it?" "Like what?" "Being in charge of everything. Being on top, giving orders." He thought for a moment. "I like the precision, the logic, the rules." "Oh, then I must be a real problem for you. A question mark in the middle of a spreadsheet." She laughed out loud, relaxing a little. I like that one. Can I use it? Only if you give me credit. The elevator was still stuck. Nora slid her back down the wall until she was sitting on the floor. Did you know I once got locked inside a bus for 2 hours? The driver forgot I was asleep in the back seat. That's too tragic to be funny. I thought so too, until I had to jump out the window when the alarm went off. And guess what? The siren followed me all the way home. And you still volunteer to get in elevators with me? I enjoy excitement, and it might be a little dumb, apparently. Ethan sat down on the floor too, across from her. You're unlike anyone I've ever worked with. Is that a compliment or a warning? Haven't decided yet. She looked at him for a moment. His eyes didn't have their usual coldness. There was curiosity, interest. Something was there, hanging between them. Ethan C. Why did you hire me? He took his time. Because you didn't try to look perfect, and because, even after being humiliated in public, you didn't back down. Nora smiled but looked away. I thought it was because I'm loud and budget-friendly. That too. The elevator radio crackled. The guard's voice came through. Mr. Carter, Miss Kim, maintenance is here. 5 more minutes. Thank you, Ethan replied, standing up. Nora stayed seated for another second. You know, if I tell my mom about this, she's going to say, I'm making up a soap opera again. Then tell her it's a documentary, more realistic. She laughed and held out her hand. He pulled her up firmly. For a brief moment, they stood closer than necessary. Their eyes met. No smile, no joke, but something happened there, something quiet. The elevator door opened with a ding. Ethan let go of her hand. His cold demeanor returned. Let's go. We're late. Nora nodded, her breathing now steadier. They stepped out of the elevator and walked side by side. No touching, no talking, but there was a new silence. A silence full of unspoken words. On Friday afternoon, the day dragged on between spreadsheets and meetings, when Ethan suddenly appeared beside Nora's desk. He rarely walked through the departments, but there he was, as quietly impressive as ever. Miss Kim, he said, just as she accidentally knocked the cap of her pen onto the floor. Oh yes, she replied, bending down to pick it up with as much dignity as one can to have while bumping their forehead on the desk. I have a business dinner tomorrow night. I need someone from the team to come along and handle some materials during the reception. Nora blinked. A business dinner? Exactly. It's a presentation for shareholders. I need someone efficient to take care of the behind-the-scenes details, preferably someone who won't spill the wine. She raised an eyebrow. So, you're inviting me to dinner? Ethan crossed his arms. Yes, technically, but don't get too excited. Dress appropriately. We'll arrive at 7:00. Nora looked at him for 2 seconds. Her brain heard dinner and dress and translated it all as he asked me out. Of course, I accept. Totally, absolutely, 100% yes. Excellent. Dress professionally, he emphasized, already turning away. She nodded a bit too eagerly, trying to hide her excitement. As soon as he disappeared down the hall, Nora grabbed Mateo by the arm and pulled him into the break room. Ethan invited me to dinner. What? A dinner? Business dinner? But he invited me. Like he chose me. Nora, are you sure you understood him right? Clearly. Look at the sentence. I need someone efficient who won't spill wine. That's basically, I want to share a glass with you, without spilling feelings, or just without spilling wine. Don't ruin this. Saturday afternoon, Nora was at a formal dress rental shop with 2 friends and 3 fashion mistakes in dress form. The blue one's too formal. You look like you're marrying a banker, Sophie said. The red one's too much, Emma added. Like Christmas in Las Vegas. And the black one too. Are you trying to impress the man or curse him? Okay, what about this one? They turned at the same time. Perfect, they shouted in unison. It was a deep burgundy dress, form-fitting with a side slit and an open back. Elegant, with a hint of boldness. Just the kind of dress someone might wear to a dinner with hidden intentions. Nora looked at herself in the mirror. For the first time in a long time, she felt powerful. At 6:50 p.m., she stood in front of the private room at the Grand Tower Hotel. Subtle makeup, hair pinned up in a deliberately messy bun, high heels, and slightly trembling legs. As soon as she walked in, 2 things became clear. Everyone was in suits or tailored business wear. No one, absolutely no one, was wearing anything with a leg slit. Breathe, Nora. Pretend it was all intentional. Ethan was speaking with a group of investors. When he saw her, his eyes paused a half-second longer than usual. Miss Kim, he said, walking over. You look different. Is that good or bad? I'm still deciding. She smiled, nervous. "I thought a bit of color might be appropriate. You look like you're here for a film industry event. This is a business dinner." Oops. I thought it was a dinner with charm. Interesting misunderstanding. Before she could say anything else, a waiter approached with a tray of drinks. "Champagne?" he offered. "Please," she said, taking a glass. "I need to hydrate my embarrassment." Despite the rocky start, Nora began moving around the room naturally. And as always, her spontaneous charm worked better than any rehearsed etiquette. Soon, she was laughing with two investors from Spain, explaining that a correct spreadsheet with the wrong graph is like pizza with pineapple. Some pretend to like it, but deep down they know something's wrong. From a distance, Ethan watched with a furrowed brow. She had no idea the impression she was making. Some of the guests seemed more interested in her than in the quarterly numbers. And strangely, that didn't bother him. He was just alert, very alert. "So, Mr. Carter," said Mr. Torres with a smile, "your new assistant has quite the wit." "She's one of a kind," he replied, glass in hand. A refreshing touch in such a serious company. Ethan nodded, but his mind was fixed on the sight of Nora from behind, talking animatedly. The slit in her dress seemed to move with a personality of its own, as if joining the conversation. "I need to keep this under control," he thought. "She works with me. She's my assistant." But something about her carefree attitude, her light laugh, the sparkle in her eyes, disarmed him in a way no spreadsheet ever had. Nora, meanwhile, was starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, she had misunderstood the invitation. "So, you manage all the behind-the-scenes work for the event?" asked an elegantly made-up woman. "Oh no, I'm just here to help Mr. Carter with a few administrative tasks." "I see. And does he usually bring assistants like you to important events?" She swallowed hard. "Like me, how?" The woman smiled, and Nora understood everything. The truth hit like a rock in her stomach. "Oh dear, this isn't a date," she muttered, taking another sip from her glass. Later, as they were packing up the presentation materials and the guests were starting to leave, Ethan walked over with a slight smile. "You managed not to spill your wine. That's a plus. But I spilled some wrong impressions. Does that cancel it out? In my company, if no one gets hurt, it's a success." She laughed, feeling relieved. "Okay, I'll admit it. I thought it was a personal invitation. What if it was?" She froze. "What? What if it was? Would you have said yes?" She looked at him for a moment without replying right away. Then she smiled without answering. "If you want to know, next time invite me in a clearer way. Where I'm from, LETs, have dinner. Usually means there'll be music, dessert, and maybe even some drama." Ethan laughed for the first time that evening. A real laugh, easy and genuine. Nora watched him, surprised. "You should do that more often. Laugh. Be more human. It suits you much more than that suit and icy stare." He looked at her for a second, as if saying something without words. "Thank you for today, Miss Kim." "You're welcome, boss." He turned to leave. She stood still, looking at her empty glass. Deep down, she knew something had shifted, and it wasn't just the dress slit getting attention. By Monday, back at the office, Mateo leaned in and whispered, "So, the dinner? It was a work event. Formal. No romantic music, no vibe, nothing. And I survived. Dignity slightly bruised, but still alive. And him? Did he say anything?" Nora looked toward Ethan's office, whose door had just closed. "He's different. What do you mean?" He smiled and gave me a compliment without sarcasm. "I almost called the hospital. That's serious. Very serious." She smiled, but something inside her was stirring, as if the game between them had changed, as if now both of them knew the line between personal and professional was starting to blur. And honestly, she didn't know if she wanted to erase that line or cross it at full speed. On Tuesday morning, the office coffee seemed more bitter. Or maybe it was the mood on the executive floor of Carter Group that had changed. Since the Saturday dinner, people had been looking at Nora a bit longer, more carefully, with a bit of suspicion. She noticed it when she walked into the break room and saw two women from accounting stop talking as soon as she entered. They tried to cover with a fake smile, one of those smiles you give when you've just been caught gossiping. "Good morning," Nora said cheerfully. "Good morning," they answered together, but with a tone that sounded more like, "Why are you still here?" Nora pretended not to notice. She grabbed her coffee and walked back to her desk. But as soon as she opened her email, she realized the tense atmosphere wasn't just in her head. "Miss Kim, please review the report you sent yesterday. Mr. Carter said the presentation was too informal. Signed, Vanessa." She rolled her eyes. Too informal. I just used a title, a subtitle, and a color that doesn't hurt your eyes. Matteo, walking by, noticed her expression and stopped. What's up? Has the Let's Bring You Down started already? Looks like it. Starting with the classic, you're not good enough. Watch out for Vanessa. She's got connections and sharp claws and perfume that smells like resentment. Matteo laughed. Yep, keep cracking jokes. That's how you survive around here. Inside the CEO's office, Ethan was reading reports when Vanessa walked in with her colorful tablet. About Miss Kim, she began in her usual sweet but poisoned tone. What about her? He asked without looking up. She's getting too much attention, especially from the shareholders. She did her part at the dinner, kept everyone entertained. That's a plus, of course. But some people are talking. The way she dresses, how she talks, how she interacts with you. Ethan put down his pen. Now he looked straight at Vanessa. Are you telling me that an efficient, friendly, and spontaneous assistant is bad for the company's image? I'm saying it might be a little too soon for so much freedom and visibility. I'm not asking for your opinion on who I hire, Vanessa. She's doing a good job. Vanessa hid her irritation behind a tight smile. Of course, I'm just looking out for your image. Ethan turned back to his papers, ending the conversation. But Vanessa already had a message ready on her phone and the perfect ally for what was coming next. That same day, Nora was called by one of the executives from the partnerships department, Marcus Velas. Tall guy, fake tan, always in a suit, 3 sizes too small. Miss Kim, he said, beckoning her with one finger, as if calling over a waitress. I need a favor. Urgent. Of course. How can I help? I have a meeting with South Korean investors. I need you to translate a few slides and prepare the room. But don't tell anyone. It's confidential. Nora found the secrecy strange but nodded. All right. Send me the files. She spent the afternoon organizing everything, adapting the material until Matteo quietly walked into the room. What are you doing with the Horizon project files? What do you mean? This material is confidential, and for directors only. You're not supposed to be touching it. Nora's eyes widened. Marcus asked me to. Matteo paused for a second. Nora, this might be a setup. She felt her stomach drop. Oh my God. Was I stupid? No, you were naive. And around here, that's pretty much the same thing. That night, Ethan called Nora into his office. Come in. Close the door. She did. His tone was sharp. He stood by the window, facing away. Explain why you accessed confidential board documents without authorization. I was told to help with Marcus's presentation. He said it was urgent and confidential. And you didn't find it odd that this came from someone who's not even in your department? I thought it was strange, but I wanted to prove I was capable, that I could do more. Ethan took a deep breath. This could have jeopardized a contract. A confidentiality clause was breached. They could use this against us. I didn't know. Exactly. Because you didn't know, you should have consulted me. She stayed silent, then lifted her chin. So now I'm a problem. No, you're impulsive and in a delicate position. You need to understand that not everyone plays fair here. Then tell me, who wants to bring me down? Almost everyone except me. She blinked. Is that supposed to be a compliment? It's a warning. She crossed her arms, annoyed. If you regret hiring me, just say so. I'll leave right now, and you can replace me with another corporate Barbie. No one told you to be different. And since when is being different a threat to the company? Since people started getting scared of being replaced by someone without the right pedigree, but with real talent, they stared at each other. There was tension, frustration, but also respect. So, what do I do now? She asked, calmer. Ethan stepped closer to the desk. Prove you belong here, but be strategic, less impulsive. That's going to be hard. I'm all impulse, I noticed. She grabbed the folder with the reports. If I get fired, I at least want the right to say goodbye with a song. As long as it's not evidence, that was my first choice. He smiled, unintentionally, and she saw it. Good night, Mr. Carter. Good night, Miss Kim. She left, closing the door gently behind her. Ethan stood for a moment, then sat down and muttered, This girl is going to be the death of me, or save this place. Nora, still with her heart racing, went down to the lobby. She needed air. Across the street, Vanessa watched from a restaurant window, wine glass in hand. Marcus sat beside her, smiling. She won't last long, he said. I hope not. But if she does, we might need a bigger fall. You're cruel. I'm practical. They clinked glasses like signing a contract without paper. The next day, Nora arrived early, earlier than anyone else. She put on her headphones, tied her hair back, and locked herself in an empty meeting room. She spent 2 hours preparing a strategic report with operational improvements she had noticed in recent weeks. She pointed out flaws in workflow and suggested simple solutions that could save thousands. By late morning, she printed everything and placed it on Ethan's desk. No note, no warning. At the end of the day, he appeared beside her desk. "I read your report." She looked up, tense, and impressive, really. Was that a compliment? "But let's keep it between us. I don't want the company thinking I'm going soft." "Too late. I saw you smile yesterday. Fake news." She laughed, and so did he, just for a second. Then Ethan turned and walked back to his office, and Nora stayed there, smiling to herself, because despite the traps, the gossip, and the risks, she knew one thing: he was starting to believe in her. And maybe, just maybe, that was more dangerous than any sabotage plan. On Friday morning, the office was buzzing. The most anticipated fashion event of the season, the Carter and Trends Showcase, was happening that evening. And to everyone's surprise, the one in charge of coordinating the internal logistics was none other than Nora Kim. "Me?" she asked, holding the event schedule folder like it was a wasp's nest. "You. Ethan wants you to handle backstage management, staff coordination, and scheduling with the vendors," Lila from the events team explained. "He said, you have a certain talent for handling chaos." "Me? Chaos? That's ridiculous," Nora replied, right as she dropped both her pen and water bottle at the same time. By early afternoon, she was already at the event venue, a large renovated warehouse in the Liberty District. Lights, cables, spotlights, models running in high heels, flying hangers. It was the usual fashion show mayhem. Clipboard in hand, Nora was doing her best to keep things under control. She was checking service orders, model entrances, music cues, and speech timings. Everything was going smoothly until things started to fall apart. "Nora," a stage assistant yelled, "the DJ just got here and says the playlist is all mixed up. He received the wrong version." "What?" "I sent the final one last night, and the catering just arrived, but they say they weren't scheduled until 2 hours from now. This is all wrong." She opened her emails. Everything she had sent was correct, but the attachments in the forwarded messages had old dates, wrong versions. "Who forwarded this?" she muttered, squinting at the screen. At the bottom line, forwarded by Vanessa Soto. In the dressing room, veteran model Sofia Alvarez peeked out at the chaos. Nearly 6 feet tall with a raspy voice and the poise of a stylish general, Sofia watched like a queen who'd seen her share of battles. "Girl, this place is upside down. Where's your team?" "I am the team," Nora replied, trying not to break down. "And apparently also tonight's scapegoat." "And you're giving up?" "No, but if I scream, it might come out in Hebrew." Sofia smiled. Something about Nora reminded her of her younger self. A charming mess, brave in a reckless kind of way. "Then let's fix this. Come with me." With the help of Sofia and a stylist named Luca, who wore a silk flamingo print scarf and shouted louder than all the assistants combined, Nora pulled together an impromptu task force. Luca changed the runway backdrop to black. The blue lighting clashes with the main brand's collection. "Darling, blue and red only work on flags. A runway needs elegance." "Sofia, are the models for the second round ready with me? They won't even step with the wrong foot." "All set. DJ, take this playlist. Forget the one they sent you. This is the final version." In less than an hour, the chaos had turned into a controlled flow, and all of it under Ethan's watchful eye. Standing to the side with his arms crossed, silently observing, Vanessa, standing next to him, tried to act casual. "Looks like there were some minor issues," she commented. "Yeah, and it looks like someone's trying to make it look like they were her fault," Ethan replied, never taking his eyes off Nora. Vanessa didn't answer, but her fingers gripped her phone a little too tightly. At exactly 8:00 p.m., the lights went out. The music started softly, then built in intensity. The models walked out right on cue. The set sparkled, and the guests applauded. In the audience, executives, influencers, journalists, and fashion partners watched, completely absorbed. Backstage, Nora was swapping cue cards, keeping track of model entrances, and still managing a quick sip of water between segments. At the end, one of the company's directors stepped onto the stage. "I'd like to thank the entire team for tonight's flawless work. And give special thanks to Miss Nora Kim for coordinating such a brilliant event. Nora, who had her head buried in a coat rack searching for a lost shoe, heard her name echo through the speakers. Me, but I'm not even wearing lipstick. She was gently pushed onto the stage, where she received a bouquet and applause from the crowd. In the corner of the room, Ethan clapped quietly, but with a small, genuine smile. Vanessa didn't clap. Later, back in the dressing room, Nora sat on the floor, holding her heels. I survived, she said out of breath. You survived, and you shined, Sophia said, handing her a bottle of water. That assistant upstairs, the sweet-voiced one with the snake eyes. She tried to sabotage you, you know. I know. And that executive Marcus, too. But you handled it. And more than that, you won the room. Luca showed up with a sparkly bag. Got a gift from the team, a pair of sneakers. Because your souls are begging for mercy. Nora smiled. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged. Not to the elite, not to the company, but to the idea that she was capable, even without pedigree, without the right outfit. Even while constantly underestimated, she delivered results. Outside, Ethan was waiting by the car. I thought you'd left, she said, surprised. I stayed in case you needed a ride. You don't seem like the kind who cares about an assistant's comfort, and you don't seem like the kind who respects limits. Thank you. They were silent for a few seconds. You knew they were trying to bring me down today, didn't you? I had a feeling, but I wanted to see how you'd react. Oh, so it was a test. No, it was a chance to show you're more than just sarcasm and quick thinking. And did I pass? Ethan opened the car door. Get in. Does that answer your question? She got in, still wearing the new sneakers she had just received. I just hope this ride doesn't end in another mud puddle. If it does, I promise I'll get out and apologize this time. She laughed. That's progress, boss. Baby steps, Miss Kim. As the car moved through the quiet city streets, they sat in silence. But it was a comfortable silence, as if no words were needed to say, something's different, something's growing. And for the first time, Nora wasn't afraid of it. But something in her eyes had changed. A mix of exhaustion and that kind of sparkle that only shows up when someone starts to believe, even secretly, that they're finally on the right path. Ethan asked for more every day, and she, unable to say no, delivered everything with a tired smile. On Wednesday at 2:37 p.m., she was typing an email for the third time because she just couldn't remember the right words. The world around her started to spin slowly, like a silent carousel. The letters danced on the screen. She blinked hard, then she blinked again. The next thing she felt was the cold floor. Someone get Ethan, Mateo shouted, already kneeling next to her. She fainted. Somebody get water, sugar, a doctor, a helicopter if you can. Ethan got the news in the middle of a meeting with investors and didn't even finish his sentence. He just stood up, left the room, and went down the stairs quickly and silently, leaving behind a trail of tension. When he arrived, Nora was already waking up, sitting in an armchair with a glass of water in her hands and a blanket someone had found. What happened? She asked, still dizzy. You fainted, Mateo said, right in the middle of your sentence, literally. Ethan came closer. He didn't say anything, just watched. I'm okay. Since the day you got splashed with mud and walked into an interview, smiling like it was the best thing that ever happened. Nora looked away. A strange warmth crept up her neck, but she said nothing. Ethan's place was at the top of a building in one of the city's most upscale neighborhoods. No one's going to bother you, he said, opening the door to a room with a view of the park. Wow, this is the guest room. It's the room no one uses. Today it's yours. Okay, but I don't have clothes, no toothbrush, not even my cow print pajamas. He gave a slight smile. There are t-shirts in the closet. CEO pajamas. They'll do, she laughed. Promise you won't sue me if I use one of your shirts as a dress. I promise, as long as you don't use it as a cleaning rag afterward. She walked into the room and closed the door. She was wearing a navy blue t-shirt that reached mid-thigh. Strangely, she felt comfortable. She found Ethan in the kitchen, quietly making something. Impressive omelet? I'll take it. With my dignity restored, they sat at the counter, each with a simple plate in front of them. This is delicious. Honestly, thanks. I trained with the most demanding French chef of all. Really, YouTube? She laughed out loud. Okay, now I believe it. Ethan Carter is human. I always was. You're the one who put that armor on me. No, you showed up wearing it. I just tried to find the buckle. Ethan watched her for a few seconds. Her face was calmer now, her hair loose, her skin still pale but glowing. "Why didn't you tell me you lost your mom so young?" he asked in a softer tone. Nora took a deep breath. "Because everyone loses someone, and I didn't want it to be an excuse. I grew up with my mom as my whole world. When she was gone, I promised I'd be strong, that I'd do something good for me and for her, and you're doing it." She smiled, but her eyes welled up for a moment. "Some days I wake up thinking I am, others not so much. I understand. Have you lost someone?" "My brother, younger. Car accident. I was 21. He was 17. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was respectful, almost like a shared moment. "Is that when you turned into this efficient robot?" she asked with a sad smile. "That's when I learned that losing control hurts, and that the pain doesn't go away. It just changes shape." Nora nodded. Their eyes met, this time without walls. "You're less intimidating when you talk like this. And you're more dangerous when you're not yelling. Yelling is my survival language." They laughed, and then, in the middle of the quiet that followed, it happened. Ethan slowly reached out and touched her hand on the counter. Just that, but it was like a spark, a soft touch. But his gaze had changed. It was more open, more real. "You should sleep more," he said gently, without moving his hand. "You too. Sleep more and smile. It helps. Can you stop giving me orders for 5 minutes?" Not even in my dreams. The touch lingered for a few more seconds. In the car on her way to work, Nora leaned her forehead against the window and smiled to herself. It was just a touch, but it changed everything. Everything started with a notification on Mateo's phone. "Nora," he called, eyes wide, holding his phone. "You need to see this." She walked over to his desk, still holding her coffee. "If it's a cat meme, I swear, it's not a meme. It's you, me." He hit play. The video was less than 30 seconds long. It showed a young woman running with an umbrella just before getting hit by a wave of mud. The image was clear, her face visible. Her reaction, shocked yet determined, was the highlight. The title, "Girl Gets Hit by Mud Before a Job Interview and Still Walks In with Style." An icon. She froze. Who recorded this? The flower shop security camera on the corner? Someone grabbed the footage, added dramatic music, and it went viral. It's been shared over 300,000 times. Oh my God. Watch this woman's incredible example of resilience, grace, even in the mud. Capitalism has never seen such dignity in the face of tragedy. Some praised her, others made jokes, but everyone saw her, and Nora hated every second of it. "You're getting famous," Mateo said, trying to sound light. "I'm exposed. People are asking if the dress I wore to dinner with Ethan was rented." Was it? Of course it was. And the heels, too. And the lipstick was expired. Take it easy. Breathe. "No, I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to work quietly like everyone else." "You were never like everyone else. That's the problem." She grabbed her phone. Messages, notifications, comments, a mess. She walked to the break room to get some air, but stopped when she heard 2 familiar voices. So, now she's going to be an influencer. Next, she'll launch a line of mud-proof umbrellas. Soft laughter. Vanessa and another employee from communications. Nora turned around and headed straight for the elevator. She had to get out, see the sky, or at least see something that wasn't a stream of memes. Meanwhile, in the CEO's office, Ethan was reading a report when Lila rushed in. "We need to talk about Nora's video. It's everywhere." "I know," Ethan said. "Someone filmed a private moment of an employee and turned it into entertainment. That's a violation, but she doesn't seem too upset." "She is. She's just not saying it." Nora was sitting on a bench outside the building, trying to reply to a message from her sister when her phone rang. "Ethan," she answered with a sigh. "Hi, where are you?" "Getting some air. Can I join you?" She hesitated, then said, "It's a public space. I can't stop you." A few minutes later, he sat beside her. "I asked him to try and remove the videos," he said. Straight to the point. "I know," Mateo told me. "I did it for you. And who said I wanted that?" He turned his head. "How much people are laughing, calling me mud girl. They're also calling you strong, brave, inspiring, but I didn't ask for that. I just wanted to be good at my job without becoming a joke, without becoming a symbol, without being the assistant everyone pities or looks at with too much interest." Ethan pressed his lips together, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. "You want to know why this bothers me so much?" Because now everyone will think I'm here because I went viral. Not because I'm good, not because I work my heart out to prove my worth, but because you protected me. That's not true. You're one of the most capable people I've ever worked with. But no one knows that. All they see is the mud and the way you look at me when you think no one's watching. Silence. The sun lit up her face, making her even more striking. He looked at her like each of her words was hitting a place inside him he'd buried long ago. I don't know what to do, he admitted. Then don't do anything. Let me handle this my way. She stood up. Nora, Ethan said, I need space. I need air. I need to remember why I came here in the first place. Was it because of me? She stopped, surprised. He also looked surprised that he'd said it out loud. I came for me, but maybe I stayed because of you. And with that, she walked away. Inside the elevator, Nora closed her eyes. She was shaking. She didn't know if it was from being so exposed, from the argument, or from that unexpected question. Deep down, she knew she was getting involved. That the touch in the kitchen hadn't just been for comfort. That the glances, the quiet smiles, the long silences had already said what neither of them dared to admit. But she also knew she didn't want that to define her. She didn't want to be just the girl the CEO protected. She wanted to be so much more. She wanted to be herself. Ethan stayed there, still on the bench, the wind messing up his hair for the first time in years. His perfect suit now felt tight, out of place. He ran a hand over his face, took a deep breath. He had crossed a line and now he had to decide if he was ready to follow through. The next day, Nora didn't show up at the office. Matteo sent her a message, and she replied with just a heart emoji and a simple, I need some time. Vanessa walked around with a quiet smile, like someone who feels the air lighter without the presence of someone who always bothered her. Ethan, meanwhile, spent the entire day stuck in meetings, but he didn't really pay attention to any of them. His eyes read the charts, but his mind kept going back to one image. Nora's face that afternoon, the frustration, the strength, the courage. That night, he went up to the penthouse, and for the first time, the silence bothered him. He picked up his phone, opened the gallery. There was only one picture of Nora, out of focus, taken by accident at the fashion event, when she was laughing with a glass of water in her hand and borrowed sneakers on her feet. He looked at that photo for a long time. Then he whispered, I'm lost, Kim. 3 days went by. On the 4th day, a letter arrived at Ethan's office, handwritten on simple paper. Ethan, I didn't leave because I gave up. I left because I realized I was forgetting about myself in the middle of all this. I'm loud, clumsy, awkward, but I'm also loyal, creative, strong. And you? You're a mystery I'd love to figure out, but not at the cost of losing myself. Thank you for everything. See you around, Nora. He read it, then read it again. He got up, grabbed his keys, and walked out of the building without saying where he was going because he knew. He knew that see you around could still turn into stay, but only if he had the courage to, for the first time, fight for something that wasn't written in a contract. In the days following her departure from the company, Nora rediscovered silence. A different kind of silence from what she used to feel in the office when Ethan was focused. This one was more raw, full of uncertainty. But at the same time, there was a kind of relief in not having to filter her words, smiles, or glances. She spent Saturday morning organizing boxes of old papers, notes for a blog that never came to life, business cards from failed interviews, and some photos of her mother. In one of them, the two of them were laughing, faces covered in paint with stained t-shirts. You'd like him, Mom. He's complicated, and I'm even more so, she sighed. It was impossible not to think about Ethan, about the way he looked at her, the way his voice softened when he spoke quietly, the way he held her hand in the kitchen, the way he read the letter. She knew he did. She could feel it. But she also knew that just feeling wasn't enough. He needed to choose, and not just choose to be with her, choose to lower his guard. Meanwhile, Ethan walked through the Carter Group headquarters with a new kind of silence. His steps were still steady, his instructions clear, but his mind distracted. No presentation felt exciting. No meeting was important enough to make him forget the space Nora had left behind. Lila noticed. Vanessa noticed. Even Matteo noticed, who now had 3 roles trying to cover all the admin mistakes Nora used to fix on the fly. On Monday afternoon, Lila stepped into his office with a reminder. Paris, Thursday, meeting with the Trower people from Europe. Yes, I know, Ethan answered, twirling a pen between his fingers. Do you want Vanessa to go with you? He frowned. No. Ethan paused for a few seconds, then stood up. Keep tomorrow afternoon free. For what? I have an invitation to make. Nora was leaving a coffee shop when the car stopped in front of her. She recognized the driver, and beside him, Ethan in a suit and tie, but with the most human look she had ever seen on his face. Are you following me now? She asked, folding her arms. I need to talk to you, but not here. Can you give me 15 minutes? She thought about it, then nodded and got in the car. They went to a quiet cafe in the old part of town, sat at a corner table. No bodyguards, no formalities. Why am I here, Ethan? He looked at her for a few seconds before answering. I'm going to Paris this week, representing Carter Group in a meeting with European investors. Okay, safe travels. I want you to come with me. She laughed, surprised. What do you mean? I want you to come as my translator and assistant, but also as the woman who understands more than anyone when things get out of control. Are you inviting me on an international trip? Yes. After watching you walk out the door with a see you around, because I don't want that see you around to turn into goodbye, and I don't know how to fix things here. But maybe somewhere else, far from the gossip, the pressure, and the Carter, maybe we can really listen to each other. She looked at him carefully. For the first time, Ethan wasn't speaking like a CEO. He was speaking like a man who seemed vulnerable. And what if I say no? Then I'll understand, and I'll let you go. She thought about it for a long moment. Are you sure you don't just want someone to hold your papers during the meeting? I want someone to tell me if my tie is crooked, and to laugh if I mess up my French, and to remind me the world doesn't end when something goes off. Wow, you really need me? Yeah, I do. She smiled softly. All right then, but only if I get to pick my own seat on the plane. No business class trying to suffocate me with expensive champagne. You can sit by the window. Deal. The Eiffel Tower sparkled like a lit-up jewel in the night. The cold Paris wind blew through Nora's hair as she held a cup of hot chocolate she bought from a street cart. I know there are fancier places to go, she said, sitting on a bench with Ethan beside her. But this is perfect. Best hot chocolate I've ever had. Of course it is. It was bought with €5 in heart. They laughed and then sat in silence. The kind of silence that doesn't need to be explained. You know what I liked most about today? She asked after a while. Tell me. Watching you speak broken French. My French is perfectly fine. Shri Café au lait is not a functional sentence. She can see smuts. She understood you because she felt sorry for you. More laughter. Then she looked at him differently. A little more serious. A little deeper. Why did you bring me here, Ethan? Really? He took a moment to answer. Because I couldn't sleep anymore knowing you weren't around. She looked down, bit her lip. I'm not easy. I'm a walking mess. I talk too much. I feel too much. And that's exactly what draws me in. They looked at each other, and then, slowly, he reached up and touched her face. She didn't pull away. If you kiss me now, we won't go back to how things were, she whispered. I don't want to go back to how things were. And then they kissed, soft but full of everything they'd held back for so many chapters. A meeting of breaths, silent promises, long-held wishes, as if the world stopped right there. As if the Eiffel Tower had been built just to light up that moment. But then his phone rang. Ethan ignored it. It rang again and a third time. Lila's name on the screen. He answered, clearly annoyed. Yeah. Nora pulled back slightly, still with her eyes closed, holding on to the feeling of the interrupted kiss. What? He said. She opened her eyes when she noticed the tone in his voice. Are you sure? But how? No, don't tell anyone yet. I'm coming back. He hung up. His face tense again. What happened? She asked. A complaint. They're saying you were hired because of personal ties. One of the shareholders is calling for a formal investigation. She froze. This is about the video, the trip, about me. This is about fear. Fear of someone like you being where you are. And what are you going to do? Fight. For me, for you, for us. She swallowed hard. And if it doesn't work, then we find another path together. He held out his hand. Do you trust me? She took it. For the first time. I do. Back at the hotel, they spent hours talking about everything. The future. Whether or not to go back. How to handle the growing corporate Cold War. But something had changed. They weren't running anymore. Not from themselves, not from each other. They were together. And that changed everything. It felt strange to return to Carter Group after Paris. The world outside still felt enchanted. Full of light dancing on the Seine. Hot chocolate in paper cups. and whispered confessions in uncertain accents. But inside the mirrored glass building, reality was cold, formal, heavy. As soon as Ethan and Nora walked through reception, the whispers started. Hidden smiles, sideways glances, conversations cut off mid-sentence. They took the same elevator, but in silence. This time, there was no power outage. What froze them now were the consequences. "You sure you want to come up with me?" he asked, eyes on the numbers climbing the panel. "I'm sure I don't want to pretend anymore." He nodded. And in that small gesture, as much was said as in any long speech. In the executive meeting room, the atmosphere was tense. 3 board members, Lila, 2 lawyers, and Vanessa, sitting in the back with her legs crossed, watching with the look of someone waiting for the exact moment to flash a poisonous smile. "Mr. Carter," one of the board members began, "we received a formal complaint claiming Miss Kim was hired based on a personal relationship, not on professional qualifications." "That's not true," Ethan replied calmly. "She was hired after a standard interview. Clearly the most capable among the candidates, even after the initial incident, especially because of it. She showed resilience, quick thinking, and character." A quiet murmur rippled through the room. "Ethan," said another board member, "our main concern here is how the company's image is being affected. Employees are talking, partners are asking questions, shareholders are putting on pressure, and the viral video only made things worse. I understand, but her competence speaks for itself." "And what about your personal relationship?" Silence. Nora, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, stood up. "May I speak?" The board nodded. She walked to the center of the room, standing tall. "I'm not here because of a relationship. And if anyone here thinks I was given special treatment," she looked directly at Vanessa, "sorry, but I have worked harder, fought harder, and delivered more than many people with fancy last names and tailored blazers." Vanessa looked away. "I never asked for special privileges. And if the presence of a woman with a strong voice and ideas that don't follow the usual mold makes people uncomfortable, maybe the problem isn't the video. It's the mirror it's holding up to you." The silence in the room grew heavier. Ethan looked at her as if he wanted to applaud, but he knew she didn't want applause. She wanted respect. The board president cleared his throat. "Until the investigation is complete, we suggest Mr. Carter temporarily step down from his executive duties." "This is ridiculous," Ethan said. "It's necessary for the integrity of the company." Ethan leaned back in his chair and took a deep breath. A dangerous pause. Then he nodded. "Very well, I'll do it, but only until everything is clarified." Hours later, the news had already spread. Ethan Carter was stepping down for now. And along with that came a wave of rumors about Nora. The same faces that once praised her were now whispering in corners, laughing behind her back, avoiding eye contact. "This isn't fair," Mateo said, slamming his hand on the table. "You didn't do anything wrong." "It doesn't matter," Nora replied. "In this place, perception is reality, and my image has already been painted with the wrong colors. You're just going to let this happen?" She looked at the office door, then at the folder of reports on her desk, finally at the badge hanging from her neck. "No, I'm going to make the only right decision." Ethan was in his penthouse, staring out at the city through the window, when she arrived. She wore simple clothes, her hair tied back, but her eyes, they were clear and firm. "I came to say goodbye." He turned instantly. "What?" "I resign today. Nora, I don't want you to be pushed aside because of me. I don't want to be used as anyone's shield or weapon. This us didn't start the way it should have, but I want it to continue the right way." "And, walking away is the right way? It means stepping back before we get swallowed by a system that doesn't understand what we feel." "I know what I feel, and I do too. But this isn't about feelings right now. It's about protecting you, the company, us." Ethan stepped closer. His eyes were red. "You're leaving me." She placed her hand on his face. "I'm leaving the job, not you. And what if I want both?" She gave a soft, sad smile. "We all want everything, but sometimes we have to choose what saves us first." He held her hand. "I don't know how to do this without you. You do. You just forgot for a while." They stood there, close, breathing the same air, heart to heart. "And after this," he whispered, "what happens to us? We'll see. Maybe we'll find each other again. Maybe we'll write a new story. No mud, no badges, just us for real." He kissed her. A kiss full of longing even before the goodbye. A kiss of promise. A goodbye that held a quiet "don't go." When they pulled away, she looked into his eyes. "You have to be the CEO now. Strong, clear-headed. I'd rather just be Ethan with you, maybe one day. But today, you have an empire to clean up, and I have a new path to find." She turned to leave. Before walking out the door, she looked back over her shoulder. "Thank you for everything, for seeing me when no one else did." He stood there, still, as if moving might break something inside him, and then she left, alone, but with her head held high. That night, Ethan didn't sleep. The next morning, he showed up at the company, even without authority to act. He sat in a room nearby, just watching. He saw incomplete reports, missed deadlines, decisions with no heart behind them. Nora was missed, not just for her work, but for the soul she brought into the place. Meanwhile, she walked through the city, felt the wind on her face, stopped in a bookstore, scribbled ideas in an old notebook. She didn't know what was coming next, but for the first time, she felt at peace. 6 weeks passed. 6 weeks since Nora had turned in her badge and left Carter Group with a heart full of longing and conviction. 6 weeks since Ethan had stepped down, only to return days later after the investigation ended and the board backed off without a single argument. The final report was clear. No wrongdoing found, no proven favoritism, just rumors and envy. Ethan was back on top, more sober, more direct, more human, but still not complete. In the first days after his return, everyone expected to see the ruthless CEO mode, but what they found was a quieter man who spent more time looking at empty chairs than leading meetings. Especially one chair in particular, the one next to his office. "She's not coming back?" Matteo asked one day, walking in with coffee. "No," Ethan replied, eyes still on the window. "Because she knows her worth, and now I need to prove that I know it too." Across town, Nora was trying to start over. She launched a blog called Survival Guide to Adult Life, the brutally honest version, where she shared daily stories with sharp humor, irony, and, of course, a lot of emotion. Within a few weeks, she was gaining followers, a lot of them. Brands started sending products. Followers asked for videos, podcasts, advice. But every morning, she still woke up feeling like something was missing, or rather, someone. "Maybe I just missed the company coffee," she joked one morning to her friend Emma. "Or maybe I missed the man who made the worst omelet in the world feel like the best dinner of my life." Emma just smiled and handed her a white dress. "Try this one on. You never know when someone might propose." "Emma, you never know." One Friday afternoon, while finishing a new blog post, the intercom rang. "Miss Kim, a delivery for you, but I didn't order anything." When she went downstairs, she found a black envelope with golden letters. "You always said you like strange invitations. So, here it is. It's not a dinner. It's not an interview. It's a new beginning. Tonight, 7:00 p.m. Address. A place she instantly recognized, the fashion event venue. She blinked, shivered, laughed, then shivered again. He wouldn't. He couldn't. No, but he did. At exactly 7:00 p.m., she arrived at the place. There were lights, candles, and soft background music, the same from the fashion show. At the center of the room, Ethan was waiting in a dark suit, but wearing white sneakers. "Ethan, you came. I couldn't not come." "Well, since you're here, I hope you brought your sense of humor because this is going to get weird." He pulled something from his pocket, a piece of paper. He read it. "Marriage proposal. Model A, too formal. Model B, way too dramatic. Model C, with rhymes, terrible. Ethan." So I went with Model EE for Ethan. E for honest. He took a deep breath. "I'm terrible with feelings, with words, with all of this. But with you, I want to try. Every day, even when you talk too loud, even when I mess up recipes, jokes, and decisions." Nora was already crying. "I wanted to fight for space, under the blanket, argue about which show to watch, laugh with you at your own disasters, and protect you without making it seem like you need saving." He got down on one knee. "Will you marry me, Nora Kim? With or without an umbrella?" She looked at him, laughed through tears. "With an umbrella, but only if I can throw mud at the bouquet." He smiled. "So that's a yes?" "It's a yes, you clumsy CEO." He put on the ring. Simple, delicate, with a small blue stone in the center, and they hugged as if the whole world fit in that moment. The wedding happened a month later, and it was anything but traditional. Instead of an altar or runway, instead of a wedding march, a romantic comedy soundtrack. Matteo was the master of ceremonies. Sophia, the veteran model, planned everything. Luca, The stylist made the dress and Vanessa was invited, but no one could say whether she showed up or not. Everyone was too busy getting emotional. "Do you promise to keep laughing at my bad jokes?" Ethan asked, holding Nora's hands. "I do, even when it hurts. Do you promise to wake me up when I get too CEO and not enough human?" "Only if I can throw a pillow at you." "Deal." They exchanged vows as the sun went down. Guests cried, laughed. Some did both at once. When it came time for the "You May Kiss the Bride," Ethan smiled. "May I?" "Only if you promise to do it every day." "I promise. Even when we're old and I forget where I left my tie and you forget what time our favorite show is on." The kiss was more than a kiss. It was a seal of peace, reunion, and the future. At the reception, Nora danced with everyone, even with Ethan, who tried to keep the rhythm but missed every step. "You dance worse than you cook," she teased. "But I kiss better than both." "Okay, you win." They twirled, laughed, and in the background, a song played. Life is full of surprises, but love is the best one of all. And it was true because, between flipped umbrellas, messy reports, awkward dinners, and interrupted kisses, they had found what really mattered: each other.